I tell people that, the cost of our activism is high.
Mm,
It's not cheap, it's not free, and it's not easy. And,
mm,
trying to encourage people to be more involved in the street is one thing. I understand it's hard to go out and put yourself in harm's way. It's hard to,
mm,
go to some of these things where you don't know what's going to happen or you don't know who's going to be there. I get it. And it's another thing to want to go see your favorite celebrity or personality or influencer. I get that too.
mm,
But
mm,
we're trying to get people just to be involved from the couch. We'll
mm,
fight the battles in the street. We'll have the conversations with the people that we need to have, but we could use
mm,
the support too, and it's not, it's really, I would say, more my fault for never asking for more help, just taking it on myself that this is my mission, ministry, hobby, whatever it
mm.
is, and try to wake people up. But, we've really changed what I think is our, not our mission, because our mission's still the same, but I think the people we're trying to reach has changed a little bit. I think we've come to a realization that as much as we would like to wake up everyone, that's not realistic. And, we look back to the founding of our country, it was a small percentage of people that fought then.
Mm, mm,
It's a small
mm,
percentage of people that fight now. It's just as small a percentage, if not smaller to me, for the people that fight now, because what I wonder about, half the people that we think are on our team aren't, obviously. They don't work for us.
Do you want to? Can you expand that? Can you expand that when you say the people that are on our team and then they're not working for us? Are you referring to, say, for argument's sake, let's just throw this subject out. Are you referring to the Republican Party? Are you referring to the GOP there?
Absolutely.
Are you referring to how candidates are supposedly elected to run in various offices? Are you referring to how you feel that there is a lack of support? What are you referring to there, David?
Well, Mark, you're hitting every point. I mean, first of all, support wise, they don't do what we ask them to do. We have different places in our country, different districts, and different places that, they're not even running candidates for us, for one. If that's not sabotage, can we not find anyone? Is it that bad everywhere? But then when we say, look, we have a candidate here that we think with a little bit of support, a little bit of push, we can
Mm,
get this seat, we can
mm,
get this, and then they
mm,
don't help there either. Or my friends, whoever goes and does things in the street, puts points on the board, and they take the credit from it at the RNC or whatever, and say, hey, we're going to fundraise off of all these efforts that we had nothing to do with, we weren't even involved with. Or you
mm,
get these, people that we do elect, like you're talking about, and they fool us into thinking that they're somebody, and then they're not. And then when it comes back around, you say, well, where's your stance on this, or what do you think about this, or what's your belief in this? And it's totally different than what you thought it was, from what they made you believe that it was. Hey, I'm one of y'all, I believe like you do, but Jesus is a fictional character. Wait a minute, you're not like me, and you don't believe like me, and that's not the way I don't believe Jesus is a fictional character. So why are you in office again?
mm,
You led everybody to believe that. You know who I'm talking about?
mm, mm.
Do you have an idea yet?
I'm sort
I'll give
of.
you
Mm.
I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. It's the same guy that just voted with a bunch of Democrats to tear down statues. Does that help?
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. So you're saying, so the clue is this, and I'm going to go in this direction because I've now worked out who you're talking about. So a Republican voted with a bunch of Democrats to tear down statues, right? So I think you are talking about Dan Crenshaw. Are you talking about him?
That's the guy right there. That's who I'm talking.
My goodness me. Well, I'm not being rude. I don't want to be rude to the individual at all, but let's just put some facts down for a start. As far as I'm concerned, isn't he a veteran? Hasn't he actually been severely injured for
Yes.
his bravery and for serving his country?
Well, I
Right?
think I think he was injured in battle. He might have fallen on a stick. I really don't know. I haven't heard that story. But yeah,
Right. Okay. Okay. So right. So he has decided to vote with Democrats in regard to tearing down statues. Can you be specific? And then I can take it in a certain direction. Can you be specific about what statues he has joined them in regard to voting to tear down?
No,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
I have not read the whole, and that's one of the disadvantages of working for a living. You get highlights a lot of times, and
Right.
you dig deeper. And I tell you, I have not dug deeper yet, but from what I understand, he voted with Democrats. It's a headline, and that's pretty simple and self-explanatory, if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go in a direction. So whatever statues they voted to tear down, it's bound to cover statues that were erected in regard to Confederacy and in regard to the Confederate side of the Civil War. Yeah,
Mhm.
fair point.
Fair point.
Right.
Absolutely.
So one of the key things that is very, very concerning to me, and Chairman Mao in China did this. So when America then changed the support to Chiang Kai-shek to Mao, headed by the American State Department in 1949, then a number of years later, you then had, I think in the mid 60s, you then had the Red Guard. You then had the big, big, massive push there. When as I say, when America then, in regards to Chinese policy, Chiang Kai-shek was shafted basically in 1949, so they went for a different type of communist. And then Mao, they then supported to take over China, right? But then we go to the mid 60s and we look at the whole thing of the Little Red Book, the push for the Red Guard and all this kind of thing. And they got rid of the police force. And then there was another 20 to 30 million Chinese murdered, etc., etc. And all this embarrassment and people hung and all the rest.
Mhm.
So the point I'm making is that it's this whole thing of revisionist history. We start rewriting history. The, Mao, it's like, well, history starts from this point. Pol Pot in Cambodia had this whole thing of we're going to rewrite history. This is when history starts, which means that they end up murdering people. They end up getting rid of people.
Mhm.
Over here in 1997, when Tony Blair was first elected as our prime minister, one big globalist, he then it was this whole thing of, had that song "Things Can Only Get Better," and that he actually said that basically it's like, oh, things are going to start from here, ground zero, this point. He had no respect for history whatsoever. Peter Hitchens wrote a fantastic book called The Abolition of Britain, the abolition of our history. So this is what is going on. Whether the history is good or not, we need to learn from that history. So, by you having statues up of Confederacy, this is really, really important. It's really important to understand why the Civil War started and what it was all about. So, when we can then get into a situation where we can talk about secession, we could talk about the southern states wanting to succeed from the north. Please tell me whether I'm right or wrong. The other thing is that, and we've discussed this before, where in the north they had more of a modern industrial power base that meant that they could take the cotton from the south and convert that into clothes and then sell that back to the south, and which caused a little bit of annoyance because most probably selling that for a lot, bit pricey and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Where the South are most probably thinking, well, if we had the industrial power plants, we could be making these clothes, etc., ourselves. And then, of course, there was the whole issue of slavery, but the percentage of people owning slaves is not as much as people then make out it to be, and all this kind of thing. So we have all that. Those, to me, those statues are there to remind people of the past, remind people of what they have done to learn from the past. And any of this, like with Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist organization, pulling down statues, I'm very concerned about revisionist history and the fact that people are going back 100 years, 150 years, or going back to 1864. So, we're looking at 1964. That's 100. We're quickly approaching 180 odd years, or just under 100. Excuse me, 176 years. And to rewrite that, and I mean, that is what deeply concerns me, David, because those statues are important for people to, in fact, learn from.
They're not going to learn anything, Mark. I have news for you, brother. It's a little different over on this side of the pond, man. And I know that it's the same there in a lot of ways. People don't want to learn. People don't want to know.
Right.
And when you look at, I mean, these aren't even the issues we're fighting about. You know what I'm saying? It's all propaganda. It's all programming. It's all the same stuff from the same people against the same people. And that's us. It's them against us. We talk about people like Crenshaw. Yeah, I get it. But, you had guys like Trey Gowdy that had Hillary in the position to do whatever he wanted to do, it seemed, and nothing ever happened. And then when he's finished with politics, he goes off to be a pundit on Fox News or something. I mean, he's not even involved. You get things like that. It makes you wonder, what are people's motives? Why, and then we're talking about the simple people like us, just individuals. We really don't want to learn, Mark, because then we're going to find out that the world's dangerous and scary, and there is a boogeyman under the bed or in the closet, and we don't really want to face that. We'd rather live with our head under a rock. And unfortunately, people get what they deserve. I mean, am I wrong? They're asking.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So that's the sad thing, and that's what I try to tell people all the time, man. We're never going to get through to anybody by fighting. Now, you can expose, you can speak truth all day long without fighting. You don't have to fight people. But until we get back to empathy and love and understanding and realize that people have been tricked, and it's not a good feeling to get tricked, It's just not. Nobody likes that. And for us to rub that in somebody else's face and say, ha ha, you were tricked, they're not going to trust us or love us or like us or be around us or anything. So
let's give it. Yeah.
So I have a couple of liberal friends, man, that I talk to regularly, and we have our little arguments, but we're still somewhat civil. We definitely have our opinions we're passionate about and everything. But what's fun to me is to have discussions with them where you're going along, and all of a sudden you realize that you have something in common on an issue, that you really feel the same way about, say, pedophilia. That any pedophile should have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown in the water. Yes. Can't we agree on that? That's a starting point. Can't we agree on things like that? But the learning thing, dude, people don't want to find out what's so bad because they've had it so good. It's that microwave society of, instant gratification. I want it now. I want just what I want. And if I can't have it by the time I get home, I need to order it at work and it needs to be at my house. That's how we are. And listen, we would much rather go to our solid, steady job. If COVID wasn't here, go to your 40-hour week job so you can go home and Netflix and chill. Hey, they're putting out all kinds of entertainment for us to keep us occupied, to keep us entertained, and to keep pushing that little propaganda in slowly but surely. And look where we are. Look where we are. It's the media, it's the movies, and it's the music. That program, everything about our life, every single thing about what we do and who we are comes from that. And what do you want to talk about, man? How the church has dropped the ball, and how Christians are responsible for the position we're in because they weren't responsible when they were in a position to do something about it. Because they sat on their hands. Should we talk about the church leadership? How they have trained the congregation by telling them what not to be for so long that that's what they've become, and that's lukewarm. So you have to ask yourself, how does the church feel today with the fact that they're being spewed? You see what I'm saying? I mean, to me, this is what being spewed out of your mouth feels like. Now, I believe that it's a rebuilding of the church. I don't think that the church is going to be the same way it was when this is over. I'm seeing that every day. And I'm not so sure that that's a bad thing. I think that God probably looked down and said, the church is not doing his job. I know that's kind of hard, right? But who is? We go to get full. We go to listen to somebody else. We go to listen to them talk and speak, and we'll pray at church, and we'll sing at church, and we'll read the Bible while we're at church, but it never cracks open when we're at home. We don't have a prayer time with our family. What? We've taken God out of everything.
Mm. Mm.
And we expect him to come save us? How about we get what we deserve?
Mm.
How about that?
Mm.
And everybody's
Well,
so worried about this COVID thing. And I tell you, man, they should be worried about hell. They should be worried about where their soul is going to go, no matter when, where, or how they die. They're going to die.
mm,
But they're
mm.
more scared of a flu virus than they are the ramifications of not knowing Jesus.
They're more worried about the COVID than their salvation in Christ. And there was a fantastic meme today that I found where there were two people behind a desk, one that said information about COVID, and then the other one that said information about, knowing Jesus, your personal savior. And the one with COVID had a very, very long queue, right? And the other thing, you raised a really important point to me, which is, are people of faith going to be changed after this experience? And I had a rather frightening conversation in some way with a friend of mine tonight, with her particular church, which should now be named nameless. And I said to her, well, what's the leadership think about this? What's going on? And they won't address that. They won't address, David, end time prophecy. They won't address any of those issues. They will not talk about the book of Revelation. And her particular reaction was, well, these people are too scared. They're a bit scared.
Yeah.
What? What? I'll tell you what, I am scared, witless over standing before Jesus going, right, have I done what you called me to do? Have I
That's the
done
question.
what you call have I done what you called me to do? Or have I gone, no, I'm not going to do that because my life and my lifestyle I'm getting too is going to disturb me, right? Now I'm not going into certain things. We all know what various circumstances are going on at the moment. I'm not going to go into that. But that is the big question. That's the big question. But more importantly, David, as Scripture says, you are to behave like a Berean. I think that's in the book of Acts. So you read Scripture yourself. You're working out your own salvation with fear and trembling. We're not relying on church leaders per se at the front, but it would be nice if certain people would speak up, maybe on the national level, and just go, this is just wrong. We should not be doing this. You've got over in California, you've got Newsom, Cuomo, other people shutting down services, churches, over the country. Over here, we have then got, shutting down church services, or as a friend of mine, church open. And then there's all this social distancing nonsense and all this kind of crap. They then decided they were singing in their church, good for them. Then there's other friends of mine who have refused to go back to their church because they're all doing the social distancing and buying into this lie. And suddenly we have government control. We've got two-tier churches. We've got government control, and then we've got a load of other people that are turning around and going, we are going to have to meet in our homes and go back to the book of Acts. I'm just going to take it I want to take it a slightly different steer as well. You were talking earlier about voting for people and then feeling disappointed. Well, I fell for something big time, and I'm supposed to be informed. So last September, Boris Johnson gives a speech at the UN going on about, having a go at anti-vaxxers, talking about nanoparticles and nanobots swimming through our bodies to heal us and do all this thing, right? I missed that speech in September, as in I thought he was having a laugh, having a bit of a joke. No, 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 no. He's absolutely serious. When our country has given, I think, £47 million to AstraZeneca, we're giving millions of pounds to Gavi, which is this public-private partnership in regard to spreading vaccinations around the world. It looks like that President Trump has done the same, according to one article I saw tonight that we need to check out. And then suddenly, yesterday or the day before, Boris Johnson is literally slagging off and having a go at anyone that disagrees with vaccinations. Now, I'm not being rude, but over here, I know I've got friends of mine whose children have got autism because of vaccinations, right?
Mhm.
I think you could say the same thing.
I
Okay.
have
We are right.
relatives that
Yeah.
there's no question. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have got this. We've then got the incredible Judy Mikovich speaking out about this subject. We've got other doctors speaking out about this subject and all the rest. And this is really, really, really important because then we've got that. So I'm disappointed. And now, not that you vote for her, she was just appointed. But now it seems that the Commissioner of Police of the Metropolitan Police, Cressida Dick, who is a woman who oversaw the shooting of Jean-Charles de Menezes on the tube a few years ago, where she gave the shoot to kill in regard to that, where they thought he was a terrorist, which he was not. And she has said that she hopes, because now mandatory mask wearing is coming, and she hopes that those people wearing masks are going to shame those people who aren't wearing masks into wearing a mask. This is the Chief Commissioner of Police. She may as well, in my own opinion, behave as if she's running the Stasi, East German secret police. This is wrong. It's off the charts. And here's a personal plug. People go on my website, marksutherland.org, look at my little film, The Irish Echo, 22 minutes, which is a warning about communism. And this is what we are facing on this side of the pond, on your side of the pond, where it's a total, and look at what's happening in Portland at the moment. And it's all backed by these mayors. It's all backed by these left wing liberal idiots, in my own mind, of
So
absolute anarchy.
so what do we do? Do we protect ourselves? Do we take to the streets and fight back? So here's the other issue.
Mm,
So, Portland has been the way it's been for a long time. Seattle, same stuff. We've got a couple of zones that are hotbeds for Antifa that the mayors love them. They're in bed together. They work together. They work for the same people. I
mm,
get it.
mm,
I get all that. My question is, sometimes citizens do things to step up to the plate to protect other citizens, right?
mm, mm, mm,
So there's been a couple of organizations over the years, and I've befriended, made friends with, hung out with, gotten to know. One of those groups is the famous Proud Boys. You ever heard of the Proud Boys?
I have, sir. I have, sir.
They're, a really famous beer drinking club, I guess is the
Mhm,
way it falls. But they're patriotic, and they, have, I guess, stronger morals than a lot of our politicians, because they actually go out into the street. When we had things in Seattle happening, they went out to protect conservatives that were getting beat up, that the police wouldn't protect. Nobody would come to their aid. Nobody would stand there and say, you can't beat on these conservatives. So the Proud Boys stepped up and said, we will. And
mm,
now you've got guys like Ted Cruz. So let me tell you, we had a rally in DC last year. And of course, we had the FBI and Homeland Security. We had the National Park Society. We had the DC Police, all for security. Okay. But the people that were on the front line around the stage, and the ones that were ready to actually fight back if Antifa broke through, was the Proud Boys. They helped us with security. We had people there that are targets of Antifa that they would love to have dead. Jack Posobiec was going to come to our rally and speak, but he canceled because Antifa had made threats of using muriatic acid and making balloons with acid and wax, so you can't wash it off. It just burn. And they said in print, typed it out, we're going to blind your speakers. We're going to do devastation. We're going to tear you all up. We're going to do all these things. I gave it to the FBI. I gave it to Homeland Security. Talked on the phone, did the video conferencing, did the whole thing, everything. Within a couple of weeks, they were put on the terrorist watch list wannabe with Congress, but they never acted on it. That was July a year ago. Still haven't acted on it. There's proof that they're trying to keep us from exercising our right to free speech, that they will hurt us, maim us, or kill us for trying to exercise our free speech. How much
Right.
more evidence do you need to put somebody under the jail? And yet they're still on the streets today.
Mm.
Explain these things to me where I can understand, because I live here and my politicians don't care about me, or they would do something to protect citizenry here. They're not. So
Can I
explain.
roll? Can I roll back? So are you telling me that Ted Cruz had a go at the Proud Boys?
Absolutely am.
What
Absolutely
did
am.
he? What did he call them?
I'd have to look it up, Mark, but it wasn't nice. It was just saying that, they're violent, that they're extreme. He compared them basically to the right's Antifa, which is totally not true. That is
I
not the
was
way
gonna
we're.
say that. Is that because Ted Cruz hadn't got over his experience of coming out of a lift and then bumping into Alex Jones about a couple of years ago? I
Well,
mean,
that.
that
Mhm,
joking apart,
mhm,
but you should have seen his face then when that
mhm.
actually happened. So, in other words, the point I'm making, maybe a little bit sarcastically, is this whole thing of being confronted with the truth, because that accusations that he's made about them, and having spoken to you and all the rest, and I know
Yeah.
that's wrong. That's
Well,
wrong to me.
and
That's a
that's
complete.
what. So we're
Mm,
kind of asking people like that just to be a man. I think him and Trump went through some of that earlier, during the election and all that. I think they went round and round a little bit about, you know, who's the man, who's going to step up, who's going to do whatever. And it just makes me sad. I met him last year. Had a
mm,
decent visit. Seemed like a really great guy. Like Crenshaw, you would think, man, he's a war hero. He's been
mm,
injured. He's
mm,
doing what's right. He's stepping up for
mm.
his country. He's going to run for office and do the right thing. And then they get in there and do stupid stuff, and it makes you wonder what side they're on. I mean, hey, let's be real. Trump just gave Bill Gates how much? 1 point something billion for
Mm,
vaccines.
mm, mm,
Is that so he can inoculate all the Democrats? Because I don't know any
mm,
conservatives or
mm.
Republicans that are going to take it.
No, and again, I mean, I want to. There's an article that you and I have both seen, and I want to see more evidence to back that up, because it's profoundly, profoundly, profoundly concerning. There are two things, Trump needs to come out and go, no, vaccines, forget it, forget
Yeah,
it. We know
yeah.
that they're not needed. And let's throw another thing of the complete lunacy and how the left are doing this. Um, I've seen a Daily Mail headline tonight that confirms that Kaepernick and excuse me, and Kaepernick and Fauci are going to be offered some kind of peace prize by the Robert Kennedy Jr. Foundation or something. I think I
Wow.
sent that article to you, and I just went, am I missing something here? Am I absolutely missing something here? Let's just if we put Kaepernick aside, adopted, brought up by two white parents, um, earning a lot of money as a football star and all the rest, and suddenly becomes a political activist that says, actually, I don't really like the country that has given me so much. Let's just say it how it is, because that's it.
Mhm.
And then
That's.
we've got, then we've
Mhm.
got, you know, Tony Fauci, Mr. Evil, who wrecked Judy Mikovich's career, who is so up Big Pharma's backside. His face is a tan color. This is outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous. He's been in politics for 50 years, I believe, or five. Well, yeah, I think he has been, and then he's served five different administrations and all this kind of thing. This is outrageous, and he represents a private body. My own understanding is the CDC is not a public body; it's a private body that owns patents, that is pushing stuff all over the place. Now, let's just have a little link. I mean, I can't believe that that's what they're pushing forward. Now, let's have a little link here. I'm not going to name the individual yet, but because I want to try and talk to him, I had a bit of a divine appointment today when someone I met. And then I then discovered that this particular individual's dad is a virologist of a fairly well-known hospital within this country. So I'm trying to get hold of him. Now, this particular virologist produced a piece of paper to say that COVID-19 is man-made.
Mhm. Wow, shocker. You mean man-made,
Yeah.
like what?
Oh, I know. Now, what is interesting, and there was an amazing young woman who was then talking about 5G tonight. I posted that on my Facebook page. All of these things coming back, all of these things that we need to look at. She quite rightly, as other people have said, the whole thing of a second wave involving that technology, that needs to be under discussion. We need to look at all of that. So evidence is out there, and it goes back. I know we're slightly going on the different meander, but the point you and I are trying to say is when we've reached a point where they're going to give a prize to people like Kaepernick and Fauci, don't we remember when Barack Hussein Obama, before he became president, they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize? The Nobel Peace Prize, what? For doing what? A gentleman that went on to order so many drone strikes, right? Let's just remember these things. What?
Yeah.
A Nobel Peace Prize. A Nobel Peace Prize for what? For going Martin, I would have had a son like him, hands up, don't shoot, and then pushing a narrative that was wrong and that caused so much havoc. If you were someone that had been given a Nobel Peace Prize, you wouldn't have pushed that kind of thing. The wonderful Sheriff Dave Clark has said stuff like that in his own words, and I'm very, he's a wonderful committed Christian, a wonderful patriot, and
Yeah, you're talking.
and believes in his country. Sorry.
Yeah, but you're talking about a sorry excuse for a president that jumped to conclusions, blamed the police for being wrong, and
Yeah.
wanted to have a beer summit. He wanted to drink
Mm,
beer over it. What kind of example is that? You know what
mm,
I'm saying? I mean, is that how
mm,
you settle your differences? You have a beer? Because, we're getting back to the point to where we settle differences by going out in the yard. You
mm,
see what I'm saying? We're looking for men that will lead us and women that will lead us as well. But people with convictions and that stick by their guns. Right now, I just feel completely betrayed by everyone that's been around us. And here's the reason I say that, Mark.
mm.
Anomaly the other day put out that the political climate, basically what's going on right now is that politicians are traumatizing our children, or that the left, I think, was traumatizing our children. Maybe that's how, well, I have to look it up, and I'm not trying to quote him,
Mm,
but my point
mm.
is this: it's not just one side that's traumatizing our children. Do we know what the suicide rate among children is up 600% right now?
Wow. Wow. That's
Because
awful.
because no one stops people like AOC from saying the
Mm,
world's going to end in 11 years. We're all going to
mm,
die. That nobody
mm,
stops. So here's what I'm saying: it's not just the left traumatizing our kids; it's the right, because they won't stop the left.
mm,
You see what I'm saying? So at
mm,
some point, you have to understand they're complicit. They're
mm,
working together against us because they don't want us to talk. So when we start getting our freedom, we start getting our legs under us, and we start figuring out what's really going on with all this pedophilia, with all the fake war, with all the crap,
mm, mm,
they're
mm,
going to throw a big pandemic on us to get us back
mm,
in our lane, to get us back where they want us,
mm.
so they can let the UN come in. Another.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. I want to, David, one of the many things that, number of things that, I love you for, my brother, is that you seem to come out with things that are so strategic and at times prophetic. So can you, when you touched on the UN just now, can you talk about, you shared with me an article today that we need to chase up. We need to follow this up. And that's one of the reasons why you shared it with me. About the fact this article the UN has asked Trump to stand down in regard to Portland. We don't know if this article is true, whatever. We'd like to get to the bottom of it. Now, let's just slightly push the article aside, because there is truthism. There is truth in this, isn't there?
That's
What
right.
did you say to me, as you so often do, a number of weeks ago? What did you actually say to me? Go for it.
Is it the part, because there was a time I told you several months ago about where did all those people go, but I don't think that's the one you're talking about. I think you're talking about when I said that they would welcome the UN to come and straighten everything out for us because we're not capable. We can't trust our police. We can't. So please, UN, come and save us.
Mm.
That one?
I think that is that one. And the deliberate action that we are seeing of the left to literally burn down the Reichstag, the equivalent of that. Now, the left would turn around and say, no, 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 but Hitler was a fascist, he was right wing. They are both exactly the same. They're both socialist,
I got to know.
both communist.
I got to know something. You just touched on a good point for me. How do we know who Hitler is?
Because of history, because of what's been written down, and also because people witnessed what he did and they wrote that down.
But wait a minute, Mark. There are no statues of Hitler.
No, there isn't. But there are, but no, there isn't. But there are certainly people behaving exactly like him because Kristallnacht, you were smashing shops, burning down the Reichstag, you were burning books. You were burning books. You then got rid of the police and you brought in the brown shirts. Does that sound familiar? We get rid of the police in Minneapolis. I think not. No, sorry, in Michigan. I think you just correct me. And then what we do, we'll have the Black Panthers and we'll have people of Islam then walking the street and bringing in
Sharia law.
the
Sharia law.
Sharia law or a law enforcement. So we have that going on. So you remind me as well of something that in 1992, I believe it was, a particular individual who's still alive, which is Henry Kissinger, said, and I paraphrase, that maybe that one day Los Angeles, they would be relieved, as you said, that the UN would be coming in to sort out all the problems. At the moment, the left wing, and we need to touch on this. We need to touch on the fact that this is a spiritual battle. The
It is.
spiritual battle and how the spiritual battle is manifesting in the physical. This is what's going on. This is a spiritual battle. So the left, to them, would rather burn down everything
Mm-hmm.
because they hate, with the perceptions given, that they hate the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and they would much rather burn down everything, burn down the whole country, just to do whatever they can, and if it is totally burn it down, to get rid of him.
Well, you nailed it. You got the one word right on the head. And they are willing to burn everything down and kill everyone and maim us forever and destroy America and take away the Constitution for a 4-letter word, hate. That's it. That's it. Unfortunately, Mark, people don't want to hear that either. Trust me, because since Kissinger said that, I think you said 1992.
Yes, yes.
It's amazing. That's when I started Stop Hate Awareness. So
we need to check that date, but I believe it is.
So the reason I say that, we've been saying these same things to a lot of people for a long time, and we can't even get our own team to understand what we're trying to do here. And so I did that interview last year with Owen, and that was the thing I said. We've got to change the game. We've got to take the game, but we've got to quit playing defense and play offense and make it a game that they can't keep up with us. It's our game, but we don't do that. The only person that does that is Trump. But now we wonder if he's been compromised. There's so much stuff going on and so many, and I was talking to a guy earlier, and I just still have to say that I have faith in him, and it's unfortunately, it's a long game and many long games. you have to play your hand all the way to the end to see if you won or lost. And there's very little that we can do for him. There's plenty that we can do for us that hedges our bet, whether he wins or not. We can protect ourselves. We can do, that's why I live in Texas. Hopefully, if things don't go well, we can just say, we'll secede. We'll do our own thing. We'll be our own, country if we need to, because the rest of the world is not going to fare well if, say, Mr. Biden gets elected, and whoever his VP pick will be, I'm not sure yet, but I have an idea.
Well, let's just remind ourselves about Biden. Hunter Biden, paid, Chinese, earning a lot of money by the Chinese there, in regard to the Ukraine, when he said, get rid of this judge, because this judge was going to investigate me and investigate my son, and which is then investigating him. And then he said, we're going to withhold $1 billion of aid, bloody blah. And then, son of a gun, what do you know? Yeah. Suddenly, the guy's fired, and then they can get their money and all this kind of thing. And there it is recorded. It's recorded, I believe, isn't it, at the Council of Foreign Relations, press conference. Well, the Council of Foreign Relations, which is a global body, we have that interview of Hillary Clinton, going, well, I'm just glad, I've got an office down the road from the Council of Foreign Relations, which means that she could take her orders from them. We have to remember all of this. So we just remind ourselves about Biden. We remind ourselves about Biden, what he did in the 90s in regard to prison reform. We have to, in a negative way, particularly affecting Black Americans, we then have to remind ourselves what the participation that the Clintons did in that regard. Now, here's another little thing in that. They must have known about this, which was then there was a lot of blood was given from prisoners. It then, as a way of either making money from them, that then some of that blood, which was infected, in the end, sadly infected by HIV, then found itself over here in the early to mid 90s in our national health system. And a dear friend of mine became a hemophiliac. He was affected because of that. And now there's an ongoing court case that was started at the beginning of the year.
You there, Mark. I got to stop you there. That none of that's believable. That's too far fetched. Nobody's going to believe that the government had anything bad to do with anything. Because look, we all know beyond a shadow of a doubt, the government did not give blankets with smallpox to the Native Americans. We know that
I forgot that one.
Didn't have anything to do with syphilis in the Black population. Didn't have anything to do with anything bad. The government is all good and all powerful.
And we have never sprayed anything, I think, in the early 50s, maybe late 40s, early 50s on our tube system.
No,
you've never done the same. You have never done the same, of course.
We would never corrupt our food supply or our water supply or any of that. We love our planet. So here's the thing, Mark. And unfortunately, this is where we come back to, man. Does anyone work for us? Because, I talked to a friend a couple of days ago, and he said, America has a bad image. America has a bad rap. Everybody says America's bad and all that from all these other. And I said, well, what do you see? Do you see me? Do you think I'm bad? And they're like, no, we don't think you're bad. We think America's bad. I said, well, I'm America. And you see what our politicians do. You see what our politicians push around. You see the wars. You see all these things that we don't want. So you're prejudging me based on what you see from somebody else that I have no control over. I hired them to do a job, but they don't represent me. So you have to ask yourself, back when they gave away the blankets with smallpox, was there any good guys that said, no, don't do that? Where were those guys? Where were our founders? Where were the guys? Where was the 3%? Where was the 3% when the HIV thing came around and they let it do what it did until where's the good guys? That's my question, Mark, because I don't see a lot of them. I see I see people like you that try that make the circuit to do all that. And I'm telling you, waking up that 97% is impossible. Working with that 3% that's awake to try to put stronger points on the board and make bigger ripples in the water, I think that's where it's at, man, because we're not reaching. The people that go to church, that's what they want. They want to be fed. They want to be sheltered. They don't want to have to work for anything. And we're asking them to get out and vote. I don't see it happening.
Well, they're also going to be they're lulled into a false sense of security, as you know. It's the Hegelian dialectic. We've got that problem, reaction, solution as well, but we've also got bread and circuses, and the bread and circuses in the modern way is it's Netflix or any other kind of channel. People are not reading books. People are not respecting their history. People are not learning about the past. You have not taught civics properly for maybe 35, 40 years in various schools. Now let's just touch on that. Let's just touch on this. Can I just say this, my dear friend? With what's been happening in Portland, in Oregon, in Portland, there's been 2 posts yesterday, today, about the number of people that have been arrested, right? And the fact that the number of people that are arresting who have been rioting, and the number of those that are arrested that are actually teachers in schools in most probably Portland or Oregon. Now, I am. I'll just say this: I'm an ex teacher with a Bachelor of Ed degree, trained to do that, and used to teach in this country, and used to teach in a special school for where kids have been expelled from school. And we've got a bunch of teachers being arrested in Portland for writing. Well, what kind of good role model are they? 1, they hate America then. 2, what are they actually teaching the kids? 3, do the parents actually know? And 4, it's like a massive wet dream for people like Dewey in the past, who completely have turned your education system into a left-wing manufacturing base to churn people out with that viewpoint.
Newsflash, people don't care. People don't care,
Wow.
Mark. Listen, if people cared, they would be at their school board meetings. They would be at their city council meetings. They would be at the textbook meetings to know what they're going to put in the book. They would be fighting back when they try to take God out of the school, when they try to take prayer out of the school, when they try to take prayer around the flag day and all that. But they don't care. They want someone else to raise their kid, and they want them to give them their morals. It's a microwave society, Mark. We want somebody else to do everything for us, and then we can just blame someone else when my kid goes and kills somebody. I can just say, it wasn't my fault. I didn't raise him. It was the school's fault, or it was the church's fault, or it was somebody else's fault. But it's not my fault. It was not even my kid's fault. Whatever. That's where we live, man. That's the saddest part about it. That's how we've gotten to where we are. It's kind of like a losing battle. You're fighting something that we're literally fighting by ourselves. I mean, this is a great conversation, don't get me wrong, but this is what happens in conservative land all day long. It's an echo chamber, people going back and forth, doing their talking points, and hey, here's a problem and look at this problem. We try to find solutions. We try to get to the nitty gritty and get down to the bottom of what's going on.
Why, when you approached a school or an education establishment, why were you turned down? Why were you not allowed to take the teaching schemes that you've come up with to work at stopping hate, to work at getting 2 sides to be able to actually talk to each other and learn how to disagree agreeably? Why were you not allowed to go and do that?
Because hate is very convenient, and no one wants to admit that they have a problem, because then they'd have to deal with it. You see what I'm saying? If I say, okay, I've got a problem with alcohol, then I have to go to get treatment. I have to fix it. I have to work on that. And if you don't admit you have a problem, hey, I'm a secret alcoholic. Same with hate. It's not a big thing. And people just sweep it under the rug. They teach their kids. Listen, I'm guilty of it too. I get mad when I'm driving and somebody pulls it in front of me and I'm like, you just want to kill them. Sure. But what you teach that kid, what they're learning from you, see, nobody tells us that. We know it, and we listen to them when they're 3 and they're cussing because you cuss around them. You're like, oh, little Bobby can't say that. Well, where did he learn it? Well, he learned it from you.
Mm, mm, mm.
But we have such a disconnect with our children and with society, with the school system, with the church. And I'm telling you, it's every bit intentional. There's a plan to divide all those things and to keep it to where it doesn't work together and doesn't communicate with each other, and it doesn't know and it doesn't care. We're too busy, Mark. We want someone else to raise our kids at school, to teach them their morals, to teach them their values, to feed them, do everything for us, take them to college, send them on down the way, and we'll be fine. Just make them turn out all right. Good citizens, whatever. And that's where we live, brother. That's the sad part. That's what I keep
And then
telling
we
you.
and then we wonder, an example like over here, when you want to start teaching, questioning 5, 6, 7-year-olds and going, well, how many genders are there? And the fact
That's
that your physiology is not
mhm.
defining your gender, and all this kind of nonsense. And this
Right.
now is being pushed in schools over here. And of
Mhm.
course, when you raise that issue, when you raise that issue as a Bible believing follower of Jesus, because I'm deliberately saying that, because
Mhm.
many people may call themselves Christians, but well, is that working out? They're having too many out of Bible experiences, but they're
Right.
not questioning that. They're just I mean, fortunately, there is a bit of a pushback in regard to certain aspects of that over here. But a lot of people just aren't questioning about. They're going along with it. We're turning around and saying, "Oh, there's 101 different genders." I've never heard so much
Yeah.
garbage in all my life, and
Yeah.
I'm saying it like that.
Does that apply? I have to ask, man. Does that gender thing apply to animals too? Are there 101 different sexes of like puppies? Because I remember my dog used to have puppies when it was little. When I was a little kid, and it was so much fun. You'd have like 5 puppies, and you're flipping them all over and say, "That one's a boy, that one's a girl, that one's a boy." How you do that these days? That's a number 28, or that's a 59, or what? How do you even? I mean,
Yeah.
that's so sad. And these poor little kids, man. How are they expected to function anywhere normally with this kind of history? I mean, dude, they're teaching kids how to put condoms on in grade school. It's amazing. It's amazing. Saying that any kind of sex is okay, any kind of family, it doesn't matter. You have 2 fish and a bird, that's a family. And I'm telling you, that's the destruction of the family unit. It's destruction of church. Take God out of everything. This is what happens. And this is what we get. And we've let it. And Christians are lazy because we're like, hey, I'm not getting involved. Let Caesar have what's Caesar's. I'm not going to get involved. And then they don't even vote. When this is a free country, you have the right and the ability to exercise your beliefs through your vote, and you don't, then you're to blame, just like the Republicans that don't call out the Democrats and that let all this crap continue. They're all guilty, Mark. This whole system has to fall before we can bring it back up from the ashes. That's just the way it is. And I think more people are just like me. I think they're sick to death of listening to Republicans and listening to anybody about, because it's all lies. And we're experiencing this shutdown. We've seen everybody, every statistic, the numbers on the deaths are wrong. The masks don't work. Nothing's proper. Nothing's right. All this social distancing, all this crap, shutting down the whole country. And we know. And then AOC puts out on her Twitter the other day, we got to let this last until after the election.
Yeah.
And they took that down. Well, of course, man, they're just poking with a stick, and the Republicans let them. It's such a fun game. And you know what's really fun is for the Republicans and the Democrats to yell at each other and I'm so mad at you and I hate you and you're a bad guy. And then afterwards they go to lunch together and they have these big thick steaks and bottles of wine and they charge it on our bill. And they laugh and say, man, you really got me today. I'm going to get you tomorrow because that was good. But that's the way it is, Mark. They all work together. They're in bed together. They go to each other's weddings and graduations for their children. They're all buddies. You can't tell me. So listen, let me ask you this. If you're at war with somebody, if you're literally at war with somebody, you going to go have dinner with them?
No.
If you're at war with somebody,
unless you're going to go and poison them.
Thank you. We got other friends we can talk to about that. But listen, you're not. if you're at war with somebody, you're going to shake hands with them. If you're at war with somebody, are you going to be cordial? Are you going to be polite with somebody you're at war with? Because see, all of us citizens believe that we are at war, and we believe that our politicians should act accordingly, and they're not. So they don't represent us. So we all sit around with our hands tied saying, what can we do? Do we march on the Senate? Do we go try to take Congress? What do we do? Because they're obviously not working for us. They don't have our best interest at heart. They like the system the way it is because they have their benefit package. They have their money. They have all the money they make on the backside. Look at Pelosi, however many millions of dollars she had. Every last one of them. It's not just the Democrats who make money. Every last one of them. So I say we get back to the basics, fire all of them, can them all. Let's just start over with real people like me and you, people that want to work and get back out, term limits and done. One and done. Let's go. Let's go.
Why don't you have term limits?
Because the people that run the show don't listen to us. All the citizens, both sides, red and blue, we all want term limits because we're sick. I'm sick of the Democrats. The Democrats are sick of the Republicans. You see what I'm saying? I'm an independent. I'm sick of most of them. I'm sick of most of them. You get sick of seeing the same old people never do anything day after day after day. It's just old. So both sides want term limits, but the guys that sign that stuff, that's their benefits, Mark. They're not going to sign away their retirement.
The politician that's been in office the longest, isn't it Feinstein? Is there a figure of something like 60 years, or is that wrong?
Yeah,
Because if it is, how old is she?
I think she's 104. Is that what it is? 105? But here's the thing. I don't know. Here's my question for you, Mark. How old was her Chinese spy? For 20 years.
My own, for 20 years, I have a funny feeling maybe, he might have been 38, 39.
Yeah. So he started when he was really young and really smart and stayed as a driver for so long. That really doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
But if you want to have a good spy working for you, you have to start them early and train them in the way that you want them to go, which is to regularly go down your computer, regularly upgrade your computer, and then they regularly download all the stuff on that computer to the hard drives that they've taken into your office that they've been practicing with. Call me fussy, but maybe that's what they were doing.
Kind of funny how that works. It makes you kind of wonder. That I'm telling you, man, it's all corrupt. It's all crooked, and it's just reset time,
And is that all within regard to Feinstein? The appalling fires that happened in California that also affected someone that I know personally. Was that quite convenient to clear the way to maybe put a train system through that her husband had something to do with, or is that just conspiratorial? I can't really say.
Now you're talking deep stuff, man. You're talking about how people really make money in politics, aren't you? Listen, Mark. Now, I'll be real honest with you, brother, because you deserve it. I'm going to be real honest with you. It's just like the 20s again. Yeah, we're in the 20s, right? So it's just like the 20s again. What you're going to see is more and more and more of this mobster mentality stuff. And listen, they've been practicing at this for a long time. Ask Seth Rich and people who have been killed by such people. That it's just the way the system works, Mark. If you're too loud, you disappear. Trust me, that's the way this works. Ask Andrew Breitbart. If you stir it too much, or if you get people, or you're done. You're done. So that's what we fight as well, because it's the same people that call the Proud Boys bad guys that we are trusting to know that we're the good guys and that we're on their team, but are they really on our team? That's the question.
Wow. And it's a very profoundly important question.
Well, everything pivots on this, Mark. Everything, our whole future, our whole country. We had everything. Did we not have the House and the Senate?
Yes. Yeah.
And they couldn't even get behind the guy that we elected, that we voted for, that we made happen. They couldn't even do what we wanted. we're right there. We voted for Trump. We got Trump elected, and we got in there. The House and the Senate both said, "Oh, we're not going to do what he says because we don't know." Well, we do. We're the ones that voted, and we voted for y'all to do what we want. You're supposed to represent us, and you decided not to. So every single one of y'all need to pack your bags, and you need to go to the House. You're
Well,
done.
I'll give you another example. Not that our members of parliament are obligated to actually write back to their constituents, but at the moment, I think I'm on email 24 in regard to COVID and the lockdown and all this complete lie and hoax. Yeah, I said that deliberately. I have had 2 derisory replies, and I have laid out a load of facts. So I'm just thinking, actually, you're not representing me. You're just all part of this. You're not questioning the government. And in the end, as you know, in the past, when I've turned around and asked, when Donald Trump came over here, and in fact, his helicopter flew over my house. Let's just leave it like that. And then it turned around and goes. I asked Theresa. I asked my MP to ask if Theresa May would be apologising to Donald Trump for spying on the Trump campaign. The reply is a comment in another of us doing a little program. But it was rather amusing to call these people out. But we are calling them out with facts, and they seem to be carrying on to build their, as far as I'm concerned, their one world government utopian dream, because that's what they're going for right now.
I don't understand how they think it's going to work on 750 million people instead of 7 billion, but I think that's their plan.
It's called the Georgia Guidestones, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's there, and people just think that we're nuts when we say these. They think that we're nuts, bloody blah. Well, look around what's going on. Look around what's going on. More importantly to me, we've got a bunch of Christians who are in certain churches who are not paying attention to the Word of God and not paying attention to the way certain events are unfolding right now. And I will say this: if we are privileged in a position to get people listening to us and get people listening to us who don't know Jesus, all I'm going to say to you is go and sort that right now, because that's your priority. That is your priority.
Well, that's the thing. And, we talked before, Mark, about, what our mission is and what our message is. And we've both established that the mission is the same. It's to, win souls for Christ. And that's the real bottom line of why we're on it. That is our purpose, and we just have to adjust the message to find those that are, in the fertile ground, so to speak, and plant seeds where they're not, because that's the thing, man. Everybody, no matter what your religious background, no matter who you are, where you go, you're on your own journey. You're on your own, and hopefully you're seeking truth, and hopefully you're trying to, better yourself and the world. Sure, and that's one of the disconnects, I think, between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. I really think that there's so much misinformation and prejudice that they think that we don't care about the planet. They think we don't care about so many things that they do care about. And it goes both ways. And we think they're bad business people, and not all of them. It's just one of those prejudged things that happens. But, what I've tried to do with my, ministry, for lack of a better word, is to reach out and have those conversations with people. This is where we find out that we are the same, more so than we are different, so that we can work together. I am trying my best to prevent what Stop Hate was started because of, like the LA riots. That's why it was started. It was the LA riots. And this whole thing is prevention. But what good is it if all this work does nothing and we fight anyway? You know what I'm saying? And winning one person at a time and bringing them over to make sense side, I believe, is really hard. It's an arduous task, but it's things like this, it's conversation like this. I think more people identify with what you and I are saying today than probably identify with some of the main, influencers that do this stuff, and they talk about all these talking points all the time. It's just crap. It's the same crap, and it's this problem and that problem, this problem, that, but there's no solution. They just, and you know why that is, brother. You know why that is. There's no money in the solution. There's money in the problem. And that's one thing that people have been so tricked about, and they support some of these people that are influencers, and we think that they're doing good and they're in it for their brand. I mean, let's be honest. There are very few people like you and I that actually work for a living and get zero support from the public, and we do it because it's what we do. Our activism, like I said, the cost of our activism is high, and that's okay. It's our choice, but that's our freedom to do what we believe is right, to try to win souls, to try to change minds, to try to wake people up. But I'm telling you right now, the points need to be bigger right now. We're headed into a really bad election. I feel bad for Trump having to go against what he's going to have to go against in the voter fraud and dead people and illegals and all the different things that they're going to use everything they can. Voter fraud's huge, man. The mail-in stuff is just like it terrifies me, because I understand how easily it can be manipulated, and that there's really not a referee. And my friends were the ones finding ballots in parking garages last year, boxes and boxes of ballots, and never got turned in. So we're going to be dealing with the same stuff. It's not going to be any different. It's just going to be more. And that worries me. And everybody's, they're okay with that. So.
Wow. Astounding to think that if, in America, there is all this voter fraud and people still continue to do it and will not take, will not have voter ID and stuff like that to actually stop this. It's shocking to me.
The whole thing is we never do anything about it. We never do anything about it. Now, okay, how many people were caught last time? I mean, maybe one or two people, got a fine or went to jail for a little while. Oh, pick on one person and set an example. I get that. But we're seeing this rampant, man. It's just going to be, and hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe we'll all be voter ID in person. Wouldn't that be a trick? If you had to have an ID like you do for every single thing in the world except voting, yeah, you have to. So hopefully that'll work out for us too, and we can get the support that we need for the election. But it's going to be scary, man. Everybody's, oh, Trump's got it landslide.
No,
so no,
can't guarantee that.
But listen, I hope people go by your website at marksutherland.org. I want them to go check out your Iris Echo and a couple of your other films. What's your other big film that you want them to look at?
Between Lambs and Lions and Abe, the robot movie. It's all very relevant.
That's awesome. So marksutherland.org. And from me, David, at stophate.com, I wish you all a great day. Be blessed, be happy, and keep fighting, people. That's the whole thing. We're trying to get people to step up, step out, have some faith, but fight the fight. Don't sit by and let things happen without you. And if you ever want to talk to anybody, email that other guy right there, Mark Sutherland, on his website. You'll enjoy the conversation.